Hey, what's up? And I am back, and in this series, this is video one of a series of video where we're going to be making a game that the gameplay and the style will be inspired by a Link's Awakening. So we're going to be looking at Link's Awakening gameplay and get the idea of how things are working in that game, and then mimic that in our game. And today we're simply just going to do the character movement, which is going to be super, super simple. It should only take us about maybe 5 minutes. But before we get started, I just want to make a few announcements. First thing is that Suncastle Gaming is back at it again. I work with them all the time. And this is actually a project. This tutorial will be a real game eventually. And that's what I'm actually working with them to create. Next thing is I am hosting a free workshop. So if you head over to my site, and just click on workshop, there should only be one there at the time of this video. And it's a 3D, a live 3D class workshop, and I'm only accepting about 20 students on that one Zoom call. So go secure your spot. It's first come, first serve if the date works with you. If not, just I would say just subscribe to the newsletter back on the homepage. Subscribe to the newsletter, which is right here. Then you just get an alert when the next workshop's coming out. It's completely free. All you got to do is tune in and just watch me make the game right in front of you and bring a tons of questions, and we have fun. We tell corny jokes. Finally, to get started on the project here, I've already gone ahead and I downloaded this little guy. I'll have a link in the description, but you can check the name out right here. This little guy reminds me of Link. It's completely free, can't beat free. And also, I've already gone ahead and created my project. And I haven't done much here, but I've simply just organized my folder. I've created a game folder, and I put material, model, scene, and scripts. And then I create a third-party folder where I put the asset that I just showed you. So I have done absolutely nothing. These folders are all empty, except for the scene where I have the this scene here that's called test area. So if we quickly go back now to the Link's gameplay here, I can see that when he moves, it's a very snappy sort of movement. So if you're pressing right, the character turns right immediately. Press left, he does the same thing. So it's a quick little just character controller going in the direction of movement. So that's super easy. Let's do it. Later on, though, as the series goes by, we're gonna fix the camera. We're gonna do the scene switches and everything, because you can tell this is actually a different scene. If you watch him as he goes out or in these houses, watch him go out of this one. The game loads. See that the game is loading, and so you know that you're actually switching the scene. He's not actually going into a house. It's just loading into another scene that's representing that house. So stuff like that, what you're going to just be looking out for. And I noticed that the camera movements in the house, it's a very still camera. And then when he's moving outside, nice smooth camera follow. So we might even use Cinemachine for that when we get there. But like I said, today is just going to be the character movement. So we're going to hit that real quick. What I'll do here is just create a plane probably. So let's go create 3D plane. I'm just going to put it at the default zeroed out world centered position here. And I might just create a material so it's not white. And I'll just make this I'll just call it floor. And I'll just really make it nice and not too colorful, just kind of blah. Ground color. Boom, there it is. And that's kind of like what it looks like right now. And I think that's perfect. Let me go ahead and grab my model from the hero pack here. Bring him in. There he is. And you can see he's already pointing. He's actually created really well. He's pointing in the direction of the Z-axis, which is great. I like when that's set up that way. Sometimes you download models and they're not set up that way, so that's great. It has some animations on it already. So if you kind of just hit play here, you will actually see that they came with a couple of animations. There's a couple of animations with it where it's just idling. I think it just kind of like loops through a couple of stuff. So now he's swinging and he does that, and well, that's not important. Our animator and like graphic designer stuff like that, he will provide me all those stuff. This is really strictly just to get that character movement down. So let's do that. All right, so I'm joined here by one of my favorite students, Mark. And Mark, you want to say hi?
Hi.
There he is. And so, in Breath of the Wild, in Link's Awakening, the camera is not really it's not really like a top down or it's a third person camera, but as you can see, it's kind of top down, but a little bit to the side. So I think I'll go ahead and just set up my camera before I get the coding going. So I will rotate it down maybe about 30 or so, and then bring it up above his head, and that's looking okay. It just needs to be further away and more up. Yeah, just the distance needs to be changed here. So let's see, maybe turn it down. All right, let's just make this 30, and then I think the camera can go further away like so. I think that's about right. All right, so let's make this guy move. It's just what you want to do when you're making games like this is really just fix certain things first. So there is camera. There is, you can see, I don't know if you can notice this, but there's a lot of stuff. There's some blur at the edges, which is a really cool effect. It has more like a PBR kind of graphics, but we're not at that. All we're gonna do is the movements, and what we can notice about the movements is if you press right, Link turns right immediately and goes right. He turns left and go left. He turns up and go up, down and go down. So that's what we're gonna mimic in today's video, is just create that character controller that makes it so that you don't have another control that controls the camera. The camera just follows, but the character just turns in one direction. You don't control like his forward versus his rotation. They're all just synced into one control. When you go forward, he turns in the direction that he's going. That kind of sums it up. He turns in the direction he's going. So we'll go to our script folder since we're all organized here, and in here we'll go ahead and we'll create our character controller. So I'll just call it player controller. Why not? Player controller. And right away we're gonna crack it open and do some stuff with it, but I will remove the animation that came with this little pack. And by the way, this little pack, if I haven't mentioned already, will be linked in the description. It's basically this pack here. And so on this little guy here, we'll rename him to player, and we'll add the character controller on him with a nice piece of asset here, nice piece of component here that is brought to you by Unity. It makes creating these kind of character controllers pretty easy. Let's drop the script on him as well, and let's crack open the script. Mark, are you ready?
Yes, but I also have a question.
Ask away.
Wouldn't you also have to add just the rigid body to keep it like gravity?
That's a really good question. In the Link Awakening game, there are parts where you can see that he does showcase some sort of gravity. I see a spot where he did a jump of some sort, and so there is that gravity in there. Can I find a spot where he does it? I think right here. Let's see. No, he's leaving. Hold on. Don't leave, Link. Alright, so I think he's about to enter the cave. And okay. He goes over there. But either way, that's gravity. Kind of breaks and he falls down. Um, Now, why I said that was a good question is because we're using the character controller. And guys, when you're using a character controller, you never really want to use a rigid body with a character controller. So when you use a character controller, you will actually use your own gravity. You will actually code your own gravity. Use gravity via your script in that case, because you don't want to use the rigid body with the character controller. It really messes up how things work. So speaking of character controller, this needs to be fixed. And this is not something you can click and drag. So if you drag, you're just dragging the player. What you want to do is fix it here. So you have the radius and the height right here. So the radius is basically how fat it is. So you can see it's getting even fat, kind of like so. So I'll make it a little bit skinnier.
You look like a fat soldier.
I'm going to make it a little bit skinnier, and then this is the center, so how high it is. So the center is at his feet because that's where his pivot is. So I do need to go up even further to about just enough to where the bottom of the collider that it shows that comes within the character controller, just enough to where it's at the bottom of his feet. So this green outline that looks like a capsule collider, if you're familiar with Unity, it is indeed a collider. So that's why you really don't need a rigid body or a box collider on the player on top of this. But you can if you wanted to, but I definitely recommend you stay away from the adding a rigid body. If you're looking for gravity, it will be coded, and we will do that a little bit later. All right. So now we need our script to communicate with the character controller. So we'll go ahead and we'll make a character controller variable or data type, and we'll just call it _control. Now I am making it private. You can see here it's private because I didn't say public, so it's private by default. We're going to make a speed variable as well. So it's going to be a float. And this is the player speed, which is also private. Okay. So the way that we're going to work with these two private variables is we can make them public, but because this game is actually going to be, this is actually me building a real game that will be out there, we want to keep them private. It is the best practice. Less chance of things just getting hacked by people that likes to cheat. So how then would we connect the character controller to the actual controller? If it's private, we can do it in the start. We can just say _control is equal to, and then we just get the component that is on the player. That's called character controller. Boom, and that's done. Now how about the speed? If we want to change the speed, we're not going to just come in here and type speed equals 10, and what if that's too much? Then we got to come back in the script and keep changing it. We want to be able to change it in the inspector, and for that what we have to do is then set the float here to a serialized field. So just put serialized field in the brackets right above the variable that you want, and what that does is when I hit save here, if we look over here on the right in Unity, it will actually make that private variable visible here, so we can tinker with it. I'll put about 5 or so. All right, now for the controls, let's capture all the horizontal movement. So I'll just call this our move X equal, and we'll do an input get axes. What do I put in here, Mark? Too late, I already put it. What about the next one, Mark? What's it gonna be?
Vertical, right?
Yes. I'm gonna call it move Z, and then the input get axes, and then I will just say vertical. Done. And then I'll just put these into a vector 3. Just create a nice vector 3 here. I'll just call it movement, and just say equal new vector 3, and then for the, we got to give the 3 values X, Y, and Z, like so. And for the X, we're actually going to give it the move X. the Y will stay at 0, and then the Z would be a remove Z. Now that we have this, the way the character controller works, since we called it _move, all we have to do is that go into the character controller and tell it to do a move, and then send it the movement. Just send it the 3 coordinates, and it takes care of everything else. So when we hit save and then we hit play here, we've basically done it. We've basically created a nice little character movement. Oh, way too fast. Way too fast. Look at that. He's going all over the place. Alright, so to fix this, that's where our speed comes into play. So we say just times that by our speed, player speed, and then also times this by time dot delta time. So now we have lowered that crazy speed, and then you see we can move around perfectly. So the thing here with Link, though, like I said before, Link actually allows you, when you're going right, he turns right, left, he turns left, down, he turns down, up, he turns up. And that's basically what we are missing to make our movement just like Link. Now, if you're saying, oh, that really doesn't look the same, then you're looking too far ahead. You can see that he does do a little like skip and hop, and that's because he's also animating. So that's his animation, that's his walk animation, where he kind of bobbles a little bit as he walks around the world. But his movement, right, whether the animation is in there or not, his movement, it would still be the same. So what I'm looking at is just the way he moves and not the way he animates. That will happen later. So when you're building a game, you should also do the same thing. Start small, create the movement. The animation and movement, guys, 2 different things. So try not to say, oh, yours don't look the same. If you're doing something similar, understand that you actually have created the same thing. So now we just want him to turn in the direction he's going when he's moving. So I'm simply just use the if condition and check on my vector 3 that I call movement. And if my movement is, let's say it's not, right? If it's not 0 on any of the axes, so if it's not 0 on the vector 3, 0, vector 3, 0 simply means 0x, 0y, 0z. So if it's not 0 on all 3 of those, that means that we are indeed moving. And if we're moving, then we want him to face the direction he's moving. So transform forward equals the movement, which is the direction. So face the direction he's moving. Also, what we can do in here is just leave a comment for later, because this is a great spot to maybe add a walk or run animation. And then all we have to do is do an else, because if you're moving, else simply means that means you're not moving at this point, and this where we'll add our idle. So this is pretty good. I think we've done it for this video. Let's check it out till we get our results exactly how we want it. Yeah, and now he turns in the direction that we want him to go. And just like Link, he turns around quickly and snaps to whichever direction we want him to go. If you hold down 2 or 3 buttons at the same time, he does go like in that vertical direction as well if we need him to. I think this is ready. Next thing we'll probably do in the next video is perhaps to work on the camera, just create a little bit of a scene where we can have him transitioning into a building, out of buildings, and definitely the camera follow. You can see a couple of things here. The camera follows him really well, nice and smooth. But I do want you to notice that when he goes, let's say right about here, when he goes into a house, check this out, he's gonna go into this house. Notice the camera. Watch the camera really carefully here. The camera is not moving at all when he moves. It does this focus thing where he kind of zooms in, and that's going to be pretty easy as well. But this is just a different scene that is just set up to kind of just watch him, but doesn't follow him. And then when he's out in the world like this scene, the camera is set up to kind of like follow our little link. Alright, well that's all the time we have for this video today, and thank Mark for joining us. We're going to be signing off and catch you in the next one.